Bill O'Reilly is going to do what is probably the single best talking points memo he's ever done in the history of the O'Reilly Factor, and that it's been on since, I believe, 1743.
On March 8th, at 41 minutes past midnight, MH370 departed from Kuala Lumpur for the 6-hour flight to Beijing, China. At 1:07, the jet sent its last ACARS transmission to the Malaysian maintenance people on the ground. At 1:19, the co-pilot, Farik Abdul Hamid, said goodnight to Malaysian air traffic control. NBC News is reporting that was 12 minutes after the jet turned west away from its charted course. But NBC News used an anonymous source, so there's no way to confirm that information. At 2:15 a.m., Malaysian military radar picked up the plane off the coast of Thailand, heading west. 6 hours later, the last signal from the plane was received by a satellite. However, nobody knows where the plane was when that final signal came in. Malaysian officials say the plane could have flown for another 30 minutes, running out of fuel at about 8:30 in the morning. So, using this factual data, the jet is either in one of two places: on land in South Asia or at the bottom of the Indian Ocean. South Asia is a densely populated region full of spy satellite monitoring, radar, and listening devices almost everywhere. That's because of all the terrorism there. So it is highly unlikely, almost impossible, that a huge jet could have snuck into an airport. As Talking Point said last night, the heavy data points to a crash in the Indian Ocean. Fox News has learned that the FBI is now taking apart the simulator in Kuala Lumpur the pilot had in his home to retrieve erased data. That's vitally important to know if the pilot was some kind of fanatical nut. All right, the factual content of the memo is now complete. Enter the lunacy. Singer Courtney Love has tweeted to her 300,000 followers that she's discovered the jet somewhere in the Indian Ocean. There is no truth to the rumor that CNN immediately hired Ms. Love to anchor one of its broadcasts. To say this whole media situation is out of control is the understatement of the century.
Now, it pains me to say this, but he's 100% right. His whole timeline there, you know, that's the same timeline that I've read, and he managed to get it out there in about a minute and 30 seconds, a minute and 45 seconds, maybe 2 minutes tops. That's all that we know about it. But CNN has been doing like 24-hour coverage, speculating endlessly. Why is it that a guy like Bill O'Reilly, who's wrong about pretty much everything under the sun, can get all the facts out in less than 2 minutes and that's it? But CNN, Don Lemon's talking about black holes and God and using model airplanes, and I mean, it's so sad. But get this. The one time Bill O'Reilly has ever been right in one of his talking points memos, another Fox News host steps in to disagree with him. But I don't even get that. Like, what do you mean? There's nothing there to disagree with. So what O'Reilly did, he actually went on in his show to talk even more specifically about the things I just referenced. So like the supernatural reference from Don Lemon, and he talked about that with Bernie Goldberg either yesterday or the day before. You know, they talked about the model airplanes, everything. Like he was talking about the speculation and basically saying this is ridiculous. You shouldn't be doing that. Now, again, we all understand it's a little silly to be coming from O'Reilly because O'Reilly, his show is based on speculation, and his show is based 99% of the time on making shit up and doing propaganda for the Republican Party. So yes, it's silly to be coming from that source, but putting all that aside and focusing on just this issue, he's totally right. But Greta Van Susteren wrote an article where she said, quote, "Have they forgotten," she didn't mention O'Reilly by name, but this was directed at O'Reilly, quote, "Have they forgotten that 239 people are missing, or perhaps murdered? The possible murder of 239 people is not a drive-by report. 239 people missing or murdered is not inconsequential." Yes, Greta, and Bill didn't say that it was inconsequential, and he didn't say it should be a drive-by report. he said, hey, maybe on this topic we should stick to giving the information and not just talk out of our asses about supernatural and God and just making shit up and speculating until the fucking cows come home. So I don't understand where your disagreement is, but she continues, quote, if you are truly not interested in it, stop talking about it. There are plenty of other issues and news stories to talk about or write about. This is a big world with lots of troubles. So have at it. Write about those. Talk about those. Report on those. No one is stopping you. Yes, Greta. Yes, there are many things to talk about, as we are doing on this show right now. We have a variety of 15 stories that we're currently presenting. And Bill talked about other things that night as well. But the sad reality about the situation with the missing plane is this. It's now become a sideshow to speculate on it. So to cover how bad a job the media is doing at their job because they're endlessly speculating is a news story in and of itself. It is a story. It is worthy of mention. It is worthy of a segment to talk about how this speculation has fucking gone so out of control. We're talking about black holes, wormholes, and the supernatural, and everybody's just got their own cockamamie theory that they're pulling out of their ass. The speculation is out of control, and we need to talk about this because this is its own story. So the sad thing is that is a big enough story that merits talking about that. So for her to say, like, well, what do you want, Greta? I don't understand. What are you calling for? See, this is the first time in history I've agreed with O'Reilly this strongly, but he's basically saying, why don't you just fucking give the timeline of events and shut the fuck up? Nobody cares about your opinion. Just give the data, and that's it. And your counterpoint is what, Greta? No, I don't want you to just cover the facts. I want you to cover the facts and then focus on it 24 hours a day while there are other things going on that are more important, like you point out. It's almost like she negates her own argument when she says, there are a lot of issues to cover. There are a lot of news stories in the world. Why aren't you covering those things? Right! That's the point he's making. Why aren't you covering those things instead of endlessly speculating about what happened with the plane when we could just allow the data to come out and then not speculate at all? God, it's so crazy, man. That's how much of a fucked up machine you have over at Fox News, where the first time, arguably in history, any of the hosts ever made sense, another host has to come out and say, I disagree with the making of sense here. That's not what we do. We like to always make shit up.